Hello, my name is John Storm. I am an MK Ultra survivor. I'm a martial arts master. I'm a hereditary Danaan witch. Um, and I realize that a lot of this stuff sounds like it's a bit much to believe or to take in. Well, about a week ago tonight, me, Duncan Opinion, Miranda Kelly, Randy Moggins had a little time to reminisce on off-planet radio. Long time ago, I trained Duncan. I was one of his trainers. I wasn't everything. I was one of them. We all had plenty of different trainers for different things. I understand that he catches a lot of hell. I'm not out in the public eye quite as much as he is. And I really appreciate what he does, because every time you talk about this stuff, it really starts ringing your bell in a really bad way. Much the same way if any of you are veterans of any foreign wars or anything, Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, or whatever, you get a little of that PTSD. And just about everything to do with MK Ultra is PTSD. It's trauma-based control, mind control, trauma-based training. Everything is put to such an extreme bent that you have to either get through it or die, or something worse than death. And I hear about a lot of people giving a number of MK whistleblowers a bunch of crap about being Luciferians and all kinds of stuff. People just trying to pull our trigger. Well, I'm here to tell you, trying to trigger an MK is like playing Russian roulette. You know, you're sticking a pistol in your mouth and you're spinning the chamber. And in this particular case, most of the chambers are got something in it. It's loaded. I'll start by telling you a little bit about who I am and how I got to train Duncan, and a bit about what a super soldier, or let's say an MK Ultra type person, really is, because there's a variety of flavors we come in. I was born in July 31st, 1953, and shortly thereafter, I was one of the first infants inducted into the MK Ultra program. Now, MK Ultra is oftentimes touted as being a program where the CIA was trying to experiment on getting the perfect truth serum, experimenting with drugs and stuff like that. It was a great deal more than that. It was also in trying to produce mind-controlled Manchurian candidates. It was also about trying to get super soldiers. In my case, I believed I was being trained back then as a child. Super soldier didn't really apply. I was thinking that they were training me to be a super spy. 50s and the early 60s, we had the Man from U.N.C.L.E. and all of that, and James Bond, and that's where I really thought it was going for me, and what I was about, and the kind of training that I was getting. I grew up mostly in Rochester, New York. It is a mid-sized industrialized city that is trying its damnedest to this day to try to become the murder capital of the world. It used to have a lot of La Cosa Nostra, mafiosa in it back in the 50s and 60s, 70s and stuff. The funny thing is those days are almost gone. And the thing is the politicians that were their bane are the biggest organized crime today. And personally, I thought I saw a little bit more honor among the mafiosa than I do among politicians today. To be absolutely honest with you. Okay, I was brought up through my particular branch of MK Ultra was funded by the Rockefeller Eugenics Group. Most of my treatment and processing and conditioning came through the University of Rochester Medical Center at Strong Hospital in Building 400. In fact, here's a clip to give you an idea. There is a CIA building there. Building 400 is still there today. Originally, it was used for the Manhattan Project. And that was about injecting radioactive isotopes into patients that just come into Strong Hospital without their knowledge, without their consent, just to see what it would do to them. During the 60s, they also used a number of drugs, plus they also used the facility there to condition people like me. Later on, people like Andy Perro, Project Superman. There was some conditioning that they did that made us very much like what you'd believe or your Hollywood version of super soldiers was. First, let me show you this clip of Strong Hospital, University of Rochester Medical Center, Building 400. This is where I came from.
He does not know that the Strong Memorial Hospital, where he is treated as an outpatient, has become part of the war effort. The hospital is being used for research by the Manhattan Project, the top-secret unit developing the atom bomb. The Manhattan team operates from inside this high-level security building across the street from the hospital. Only authorized personnel are allowed in.
I've described how they made us stronger. Now, before they could make you physically stronger, they had to harden your skeleton or your musculoskeletal system. They used mostly electroshocks on me. I came up through the 50s. Later on, they started using other things. They start using implants, neural implants and stuff that kind of amplify signals to different muscles to help get more strength and that out of them. In my day, it was a matter of putting pads on the different muscle groups and then running electricity, large current electricity. In fact, you have a lot of little gizmos on the market today that you can buy that gives you these little shocks across your muscle groups. Well, those were developed by the experimentation that they did on people like me back in the 50s. Except the type of voltage and amps that they used in us was a lot greater than those little gizmos that you got on your belt giving you shocks today. Now, before they could do that, they had to harden your skeleton. And I got a little clip here for that, but before I get in there, YouTube is going to give me all kinds of hassle and not allow this thing out of the country. Now, I just want to say this about that. I watched every clip that I'm showing you came off. The full version is on YouTube. It can be found today. It's free to view. Nobody is getting ripped off of any royalties for me showing the little clip. In fact, think of it as advertisement. You should watch these things. You should watch the programs. I mean, you watch a lot worse things on television today. These things are a bit more educational. But the government has a problem because when we get up and we start talking about this stuff, now if somebody starts talking about, Elvis clones from the planet Hound Dog coming in, surgically implanting sideburns, while they're asleep at night, yeah, well, that's the kind of stuff they're going to let out. And it sounds wacky and that, thank you very much. But that's the stuff they're going to let out because it makes us all sound out like crackpots. And when I take this stuff to establish where I come from, how we got through this program, how this comes to be the way it is, it validates it. Because the fact is, it's true. This is not a theory. I was there. I seen it. I lived it. So did Duncan. I trained Duncan when he was a young fella. I trained him in martial arts. Kind of an assassin school, so to speak. This isn't the kind of martial arts you get in your YMCA. Okay? First let me go back. I'm going to show you this anyway. 'Cause, I know they're going to try to censor it, but I'm going to make this available in any other ways I can. Feel free to copy it to your Vimeo, your YouTube channel, or whatever to get the word out. Hey, this stuff is real. We're not kidding. I'm not a joke. I'm not a crackpot. Neither is he. And those of you idiots out there, and I do mean idiots, that are trying to trigger him, just trying to piss him off, we'll get back to you later. First, let me show you about how people get their bones strengthened so that they can get that super strength you hear about for super soldiers.
It's called Wolff's Law, based on the pioneering discoveries of 19th century surgeon Julius Wolff. These are the structures in human bone. Trabeculi, Latin for little beams. When bones are traumatized over and over, they lay down more calcium structures, more little beams. The bones become denser, harder, more durable. Ancient martial artists knew the secret of Wolff's Law long before modern science. For centuries, they've trained by breaking boards, striking sand, iron, stone. That which does not kill you really does make you stronger.
Now you got an idea. We're not kidding. My bones are very, very dense. Look at the fists on me. I've been known, my call sign was Thumper. Anything I hit, I broke. I have a punch impact of over 1,600 pounds per square inch. I can bust security glass. My bones don't break, at least not very easily at all. I can jump I have been as high as 5 stories. That was a bit rough. 3 or 4 stories, hit the ground, roll, in a dissipating tumble, and hit the ground running. I can do that. Getting hit by a car 30, 40 miles an hour, can do that without getting a broken bone. Make a big dent in the car. Now, that's a hell of a thing to claim, right? Well, as it happens, there is a video of a couple Swedish girls. Let me give you a little bit about it before I play you the clip. These 2 gals, we believe, are MK Ultra, Sweden's version of MK Ultra. There is a version in Canada, there is a version in England, there is a version in Sweden. I was very surprised to see this, but once I saw this, and some of the other Ultras I know saw this, there was no doubt in our mind as exactly what was happening. These girls were MK Ultra. They were conditioned a lot like we were. They were also fractured to be Manchurian candidates. If you watch the full version, it's available on YouTube at free. You'll see that the one sister, both of these girls get hit by cars. One of them gets hit twice. The other gets run over by a truck, a semi. They both live. The one that got hit by a semi, I believe she was a couple months in the hospital. The one that got ran over by the semi was a couple months in the hospital. The one that got hit twice by cars on the expressway at full speed, fast lane. All right, you can see the damage she did to the car. She not only, now these gals are like 5 foot something. Duncan and I are over 6 foot plus, over 220 pounds each. Hard body, muscle type guys, big guys. These are little gals, okay? The one sister gets hit by a car twice. It takes 6 cops to try to get her into the ambulance, and believe me, they had the fight of their life. After she had been hit by cars twice. 3 days later, they let her out of the hospital because there's nothing wrong with her. All right? She got hit twice. Nothing. Don't even need a cast, a splint, nothing. And she ends up killing a man. She knifes him to death. I believe they got triggered somehow. Maybe some idiot gone up and just tried to piss them off and did something. They got triggered somehow. I believe the mission went bad. And that's the problem. See, a lot of you will say, well, you guys are crazy. Let me tell you a little bit something about crazy. But first, I want you to see what these 2 little 5 foot something Swedish gals look like, MK Ultra style. And then I want you to think of what somebody Duncan or my size is capable of doing. I say this because we have done it.
Both women run into the fast lane. One directly into the path of a car. This is turning into a serious incident, and the motorway cops are being called in to help. As the cops arrive, the situation appears calm. Incredibly, the two women seem to be uninjured.
Managed to stop pretty quick.
Yeah, they have, yeah. The highways officer came over to speak to us and he started to inform us what had actually gone on, where these women had actually come from.
Right, what we've got is they were in the central res.
Why? Do we know?
Exactly.
Do they speak English?
One speaks English, yeah. The one in the red,
Yeah.
we had a block coming up
Right.
because we knew they were on camera.
A full closure?
It's on camera. Full closure northbound.
Yeah.
They were trying to cross the Bravo, so as we approached, they hadn't seen us, mother. The red one's got knocked down by the red car over there. I've got an ambulance en route for her.
Right.
She seems all right, but I'm not a doctor. She has been knocked down.
Is
by
she
a-
the one that speaks English or the other one?
Yes.
Right.
The other one, she's going to run it.
Oh no! Mike Alpha, we need ambulance, senior officers to the scene. We've got 2 possible fatals.
As she ran out, he tried to grab her instinctively. Luckily for him, her jacket came off, or else he'd potentially have been in the carriageway as well. She was obviously struck by the HGV. Once the first girl had run out, the second one, for some reason, also decided she was going to run out into the traffic as well.
Can you look after her for me? The initial shock was just phenomenal. You can't believe that 2 people have just done that in front of you. It's okay, no, stay where you are, stay. It's now a major incident, and we need backup, to us quick. Oscar Tango 3-3 on arrival. Both females have ran out into the carriageway. First female has been hit by HGV in lane 2, serious injury. Second female has been hit by a small vehicle in lane 1. It's got 2 serious casualties. We're going to need air ambulance. Shh! No, come on, my love, come on, you've hit your head. Calm down. We are the police. Calm down. Yeah, and the doctor's en route. It's okay, calm down. She appears very disorientated.
She's unconscious initially. I mean, you can see the damage to the vehicle, the windscreen and the roof as well. The majority of people don't survive collisions when they've had an impact like that.
I'm trying to make sure you're okay. Right. Where's Paul? Oh, shit. Where's Paul?
It was unbelievable when she started to come round and just decided that she was perfectly okay.
Where's Paul? Stay.
Oh, why do you film me?
Stay still.
Why do you film me?
Oscar Tango 3-3.
Fucking hell!
No!
So you got that, right? These gals, very strong, very hard body. I mean, seriously hard body. This isn't your average workout in the gym. None of this is. Now for you nutcases that are trying to trigger people, well, you're crazy. Let me tell you, we've been worked over by the finest, the brightest psychiatrists and psychologists in the 21st century. To be made to be a little crazy, to be fractured, to be multiple personality, not a disorder, but in such a way that they can control it. You've seen the cases of John Holmes and Adam Lanza and all these others, and that he was a quiet man. And then all of a sudden one morning, bing, something sets him off. Something triggers him. Somebody calls up on the phone, sets a tone. This guy gets up, grabs his gun, and decides he's going to kill as many people as possible. These are what we call the throwaways. These guys aren't necessarily conditioned to be hard body or anything else. The kind of ultras that I'm talking about, like Duncan and myself and a number of others, we're not throwaways. We're the expensive ones. We're the ones that are made to go out on a mission with nearly 100% guarantee that we're going to carry it out. Our mark is going to be terminated, and we're going to come back for the next job. You're not talking about people of a normal IQ either. You're not talking about dummies. When you have the dummies like that, those are the guys that turn around, shoot somebody, bang, bang, and then they go bang, bang. Okay. Throwaways. Use once, throw away. No questions asked. Hey, he was crazy. What can you say? It wasn't an assassination. It was a random act of random violence. This is what the government calls plausible deniability. I know this because I trained people like Duncan and others in plausible deniability. How to go up, fracture somebody's skull, break their neck or something, make it look like an accident. You can't trace that. You know, broken neck, toss at the bottom of the stairs, he broke his neck. It was a fall. They're not looking for a homicide. There's no murder investigation. There's nobody pointing fingers at this diplomat or this embassy or anything like that. There's no altercations whatsoever. It was an accident. Set him in a car that's bumped up against a tree. When they, do the autopsy, broken neck, fractured skull. That's what happens. It's not a murder. It's not a homicide. It's not an assassination. That's the whole trick. Keep that word out of there. And see, at one point during the time, I think Reagan and Bush were president and vice president, they signed a thing saying America would never use assassins. Well, we've been using them all along. I remember when Nixon said there was nobody in Laos or Cambodia or any of those other countries other than Vietnam. Well, Duncan, Dave Corso, myself, we've all been in Cambodia. We were on different missions from each other, but we were all in Cambodia, and this was during the Vietnam era. My job, particularly mine, I can't speak for what they were doing. They've given their own testimony on this. It was to basically, when the Viet Cong start crossing over, because at the DMZ and that, we tried to block off the Ho Chi Minh Trail so they couldn't get supplies down to their troops in South Vietnam. They start coming out across the border to Cambodia and Laos, and then coming down and cutting in and supplying their people on in South Vietnam. So we'd be waiting across the border for them in the jungles, and basically when they showed up around my area, well, awful things would happen to them. They'd get their neck broke, their head turned around facing the other direction, nice and quiet. The minute they stepped away, not a sound. By the time anybody found them, there they are, face down in the jungle with their head pointing the wrong direction, and this would kind of give them the willies. And we tried to discourage them from wanting to cross over into those dangerous jungles in Cambodia and Laos, and that's what we did. Dave, he was I heard he was quite a first-rate sniper. Duncan, he was part of another group entirely, but he had been through my martial arts training. He speaks a lot of times in some of his testimony, if you catch him on Project Camelot, about visiting an uncle for the summer, and then he'd come back and he'd have these martial arts skills that he couldn't account for. Well, I can account for them, for a good many of them anyway. A lot of it is stuff that I trained and I taught him myself. And I can show you the techniques. I've been a master. I have my red belt up on the wall up there. That's a master's belt. That master's belt is 30 years old, so I'm more around grandmaster level these days. But I haven't formally gone out for anything on it yet. What's the use? I want to talk about the crazy. We are conditioned. We were mind controlled. All of you are mind controlled. Now, in my case, and in many of our cases, when we're young, they scarred our brain stems. Here's a picture of what my scars look like on the back of my neck. They scarred our brain stem. This gives you what's called an eidetic or a photographic memory. All right. This also increases your ability to learn. I retain about in the high 90s, 96+% of anything that I ever read, learn, or see, or anything. Also makes it difficult when they try to a couple of times, and I always seem to get it back. It's just something you can't keep away. It's in my long-term memory. It shows up eventually. It may work at the beginning, but somewhere down the line it starts falling apart. Now, about triggering us. Now, in my particular case, I got more control. While they were studying me, looking into the abyss, as Nietzsche says, I was in the abyss looking back and studying them. I learned a lot of things from them. I learned a lot of things about sleep teaching. It's more than just playing tapes and learning how to speak Russian in a couple weeks just by some speakers under your to erase my memory. I mean, they have it. There's a great many other things that you also learn in your sleep teaching. When you're dreaming, you're going to hear a lot of ultras or people that have been associated with Ultra Monarch. They're going to talk about some pretty fantastic things, and they're in their memories. And I mean, you could go back and you can hypnotize them, and they're going to tell you the same thing. And they're going to tell you the same thing over and over again. And it's kind of, well, that's too fantastic to believe. And in many cases, it might be. See, the thing about the dreaming is it's not like a movie that you can just sit back and watch and not interact with. You're in it. You're involved. And it's not running a prescribed course or anything. It's going to alter depending on how you react to it. So while you're in the course of dreaming, unless you're in a lucid dream, which is a slightly different state, you don't know you're dreaming. So if you are being attacked by a gang, an army, a monster, or whatever, a wild animal, and you turn around and fight, the fact is, you really are brave. That's a truth about you. It's a reality. So a lot about your dream experience is your personal experience. You are reacting to the input, to the things that you were given. Therefore, a lot of these people that are programmed a certain way, are hypnotized a certain way, and it's stuck and it's there, they did, for all intents and purposes, experience those things that they're telling you. They lived through them. They genuinely deserve credit for having survived them as they did. However, it doesn't mean it's a necessary part of your reality. Then there's the matter of dimensionalism. So some of these things aren't necessarily taking place just in your head, but in an alternate dimension. Besides an alternate state of mind. And MK Ultra and everything to do with these programs, there's over 150 programs, for crying out loud. They weren't all about testing out truth serum. They were each about testing out different aspects of that mind control system to get something the government wanted out of it. So you have to keep those in mind when these people are talking along these lines. They've been conditioned. And anytime, I don't care who it is, even if you're talking to me or you're talking to Duncan, and it's just a matter of how functional we are. We are all a little crazy. It's just a matter of functionality. We got most of our marbles back. Got our own mind. We're making our own game plans as we go along, and we're trying to do the best we can according to our own conscience and our own mindset. But any ultra that you're dealing with at any given time, because of the training, because of the conditioning, the idea of deadly violence is always on the table. It's always right there at the top of the menu. That doesn't mean we're necessarily going to kill you. It means we've thought about it. We've spotted your vulnerabilities. We know which hand you like to use, what hand you hold a knife with, whether you got large knuckles or small knuckles, whether, which will tell us, about how your training is. We'll know who's in the room, who's standing where. Now, we don't always have to be looking around like that. A lot of times we just look into the shiny objects in the room and keep track of the reflections of who's where. But we like to know where everybody's at. We like to sit with our back to the wall. We all got a habit of stashing weapons everywhere. Give you one right here. There we go. One right here. There's some everywhere. There's not a room in this house. There's not a place that I go often where there are not weapons of one sort or another somewhere near at hand, and we know where every one of them is. That's a part of our conditioning. Okay, so trying to threaten somebody with violence. Now, I'm trained, and I trained Duncan to react. If you turn around and ball up your fist or you pick something up to swing it, chances are you're going to be dead in the next heartbeat. So trying to pick on an ultra, any ultra, I don't care if it's a little wimp like Adam Lanza. I don't think he did the Newtown shootings. I think the two guys that we spotted in the helicopters with the camo pants and the dark shirts are the ones that did the killing in the Newtown massacre, if anybody got killed. After all, nobody, not even the parents, saw the bodies of their children. They saw, from the coroner said, photoshopped pictures. He said so on the news, mainline news. I didn't make this stuff up. They did. The idea of triggering an ultra is the stupidest thing you can do. We are real. Yeah, you could run into me with your car. I'm going to hurt your goddamn car. I'm going to rip the doors off, yank you out of it, and if I hit you only once, wherever I hit you is going to break. Same goes for Duncan. The man can deadlift 1,000 pounds. And look at us. We're not getting any younger. I really didn't think I was going to live to be this old. The funny thing is, and we were talking about it on Randy's show, is the thing that amazes us. You think we're amazing. We think you're amazing. We're just in awe of the American people, the culture. Because see, we've been through drugs, electroshock, trauma-based conditioning, where there are things worse than death, because most people that get into these programs, I mean, I didn't volunteer. They did this to me from an infant. Okay, some people did volunteer, but a lot of people that go through it don't survive it. Or if they do survive it, they're only good for an institution. See, one thing with the Strong Hospital that I was showing you where I was from, is they have a really huge psych unit just down the road from there. Multi-story, many acres, and that's where they put the rejects, the ones that don't make it. They end up gibbering idiots. They, walk around naked, smear themselves in their own feces. This is what happens to the people that we know and we get to see this stuff. This is if you don't do what we say, this is where you're going to end up for the rest of your life. You're going to be institutionalized. So this is the kind of, think of it as motivation to become a super soldier. See, you'd run into cars and knock cars over yourself if you saw what went on in these insane asylums, and that was going to be and somebody told you, government people told you that was going to be your future. You try to talk to people about it. Well, I don't believe in such a thing exist. I don't believe that they can do that. There's all kinds of documentation about it. It's been up before a congressional committee. There's been hearings ever since the Freedom of Information Act blew the lid off of it. I was looking forward to this. It's like, okay, now we got validation. Everybody wondered, how did I get to be such a karate freak? Well, you've been taking it. Yeah. How many karate studios were in Rochester, New York in the late 1950s, early 1960s? How many? Can you look it up? Not many. Most people didn't even know what karate was back then. The most we saw about martial arts was they'd talk about jiu-jitsu, and you'd see the little mouse on the cartoon grab the cat by the finger and go wham, wham, wham. Nothing to do with karate whatsoever. In fact, nobody even heard of Bruce Lee till about the mid-60s when the Green Hornet come out. And then everybody was like, wow, people can do that? But see, I was a karate freak long before then. And I was ass-kicking in my high school, in my neighborhood. Like I say, Rochester is one of those cities that's just been forever vying to be the murder capital of the world. It is not a safe place. It is not a nice part of it that I grew up in. I had to take care of myself a lot of times. I had to take care. I had 3 sisters and a mom to take care of. I had to protect them, and couldn't accept no for an answer. My stepfather told me when I was 7, he says, when they go out, you go out with them. Anything happens to them, don't you dare come home alive, or you're going to end up in that institution. If you don't get straight A's in school, you're going to end up in that institution. I didn't just graduate top of my class, I graduated top of my school by a large margin. Always had. And I mean, records do exist. In the city of Rochester, I have been in a lot of altercations. On more than one occasion, I have been in court for being the member of a third gang, the only member of a third gang that walked away from the altercation with 2 other gangs uninjured. I busted my own bad guys, you know, doing robberies and stuff when I was a convenience store manager for Tops Markets. I'm on record. I did these things. I lived here. I did this. I was there, bigger than life the whole time. I am not a joke. Neither is Duncan a joke. But I want to show you something. I've oftentimes, in some of my other talks, you should check out my videos on witchery. I have a book out on practical witchery. I've written about 14 books, and I got a few more still going. Practical witchery, I'm still actually writing, but you can read as much as I've got, which is quite a bit, on bookricks.com. I'll put the name across the screen there. I've often talked about Illuminist, Luciferian, warlocks, oath breakers. It's another kind of witch. See, I'm not a Satanist. Some idiot, I'm not even going to, even if I remember his name, I'm not going to honor it by putting it on my lips. Besides that, there's more than just him out there. There's a few more, and personally, I wouldn't want to miss one of you. We learn how to shoot. It's called OSAK, 1 shot, 1 kill. We don't miss. See, if we did miss, we'd end up in one of those. We'd be one of those throwaways or end up in one of those institutions, and as you can see, that hasn't happened yet. And I'd just like to make sure I hit all of you. I started in this in 1953. Somewhere around 56, 57, we moved out to Riverside, California. My stepdad got offered a job in Riverside at Roar Aircraft. Now, for him, that meant a better paying job. For the family, it meant, we got to move out. Riverside was very suburban in the 1950s. It was kind of nice. They were building, Walt Disney was building Disneyland. MK Monarch was just getting started. And a lot of people were being groomed to be kind of national icons by everybody likes to blame the Jews. See, there's too many Jews I know that are actually really great people, good people, better than some of you in a lot of ways. And but that don't mean all of them. That's not true of any one particular race or people. They're Zionists. They believe they're the master race. And they like to, with them, image is everything. But see, with real witches, real wizards, we understand that very few things are actually exactly what they appear to be at first glance. You muggles are taught, well, what you don't know can't hurt you. Ultras are taught, what you don't know will kill you. And we keep it that way. Well, these Luciferian warlocks do the same. Image is everything. And if they give you, they know knowledge is power, so bad knowledge takes away power. So they give you bad knowledge. Well, what bad knowledge did they give you? Well, they told you Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492. And exactly what do they mean by that? I mean, there were people here for 10,000 years or more before then. Didn't they count? Or did it have to be somebody from Italy or Europe before it counted that anybody being here? They weren't important. Well, they were just savages. Well, from my view of witchery, you were savages in Europe. I'm an Irish witch. The things you guys did to us in the name of Christ, and really it wasn't anything Jesus would have anything to do with. You were hoodwinked as far as anybody could get. Were the most god-awful things that ever happened to anybody. All that crap you talk about being a love religion, well, if you've ever been a witch or a homosexual or a Jew or anything, or a little less than white, the things you people did to everybody else stands against you. Want to talk about savages? That's savage. Say Marco Polo discovered the Silk Road or discovered China, and it's like the Silk Road had been being used long before Marco Polo was ever born. Magellan sailed around the world, and that's where we got our map. No, the Piri Rice maps are over 5 centuries older than Magellan. And it's more complete than any map that he ever had. And those have been in existence the whole time. You've been taught wrong things. Well, here in this first clip is a thing from Disney, put it out in around 1959. This video is also copyrighted, but it's also free to view public on YouTube. But because I put it here in the context that I put it in, there's going to be all kinds of objections to it. So like I say, I have to make this available in other ways. But according to these people, Pythagoras was the father of mathematics and music. Now here's a man that was around somewhere between the 5 and 400 BC. Like the people that built the pyramids, Machu Picchu, aligned these things perfectly mathematically, didn't know anything about math until Pythagoras came along. See the claims that they make? Well, here's a little clip that shows you Pythagoras is the father of mathematics and music. Like nobody played any of this stuff or did any of this thing before Pythagoras came along. Well, that's malarkey. But here it is, out of their own mouths. Go Disney.
Come on, let's go to ancient Greece, to the time of Pythagoras, the master egghead of them all.
Pythagoras?
The father of mathematics and music.
Mathematics and music?
Ah, you'll find mathematics in the darndest places.
Well, I've talked about the warlocks. This goes back long before Christianity. And yes, they did meet in secret. But according to this group, now you can see what they're lining up. They're trying to get kids to, when you get older and that, you want to look for this secret society. Because we're really the good guys. We're discussing mathematics and music. Yet we're having jam sessions behind closed doors. That's why we meet in secret and we make these oaths, blood oaths, to slit each other's throats or whatever if you give away any of our secrets. Yeah. Here's Donald, ready to join his secret society.
My God, you do find mathematics in the darndest places.
You can imagine how excited Pythagoras was when he shared his findings with his pals, a fraternity of eggheads, known as the Pythagoreans.
They used to meet in secret to discuss their mathematical discoveries. Only members were allowed to attend. They had a secret emblem, the pentagram.
Gee, you're not ready for a secret society? Oh, that's right, because your brain is cluttered up with too many bad things. You can't believe in those things. You have to unlearn all that stuff and learn the stuff we teach you instead. It's called brainwashing. Interestingly enough, by the time this was made, Most of Disneyland was built, and I'm sure there's documentaries out there. When Disneyland was being built, I know because I was there. This was Project MK Monarch. All right, I was being looked over as a candidate for that. Originally, I started in Ultra, then check out MK Monarch. No, a lot of things happened. I was better suited for MK Ultra. Yeah, so basically my stepfather lost his job at Roar Aircraft and they sent us packing back to Rochester for me, back to Building 400 and the usual thing. But most of Disneyland is underground. Now you say, well, that's to handle all the technology for the whole thing. That's also the handle for MK Monarch. The mind control, the brainwashing has been a part of the Disney thing for the whole time. Anything that they put out, any historical thing they did, Squanto or any of that crap, take a look at it. It is not historically correct. You guys keep getting this really good. It was just Thanksgiving just not too long ago, about a month ago. And you got this picture of pilgrims and Indians sitting down eating together and everybody living peaceful. And yeah, they taught us how to plant corn and that, and we just treated each other really good. And not a damn word gets said about them getting sent home with blankets infected with smallpox. And yes, they knew they were infected with smallpox. There's diaries and logs of these people that had left this stuff. These are good Christian folk killing off the Indians to help them survive so they can take their land. This is good Christian values. This is the crap that you get Disneyfied in that. You know, when they start talking about fairies and that and everything's kind of sweet. I know a side of fairies that you're having trouble with MK Ultra. I really shouldn't even be getting into any of that. But here's a bit about some good old-fashioned brainwashing. Yeah, this will straighten you right out.
Now you're ready for the most exciting game of all.
Oh, boy.
And the playing field for this game is in the mind. Uh-oh. Look at the condition of your mind. Antiquated ideas, bungling, false concepts, superstitions, confusion. To think straight, we'll have to clean house. There, that's more like it.
Well, it's nothing new. Absolutely nothing new about any of this. It may sound bizarre, it may sound like any of a number of things to you, but when you take it all with what there already is out there, see, somewhere around 72, 73, Richard Helms destroyed the personnel files for MK Ultra. When the Freedom of Information Act started blowing the whistle that there was all this done, the personnel files, not the ones of the doctors. The doctors are the doctors. Who they were or who they are. And George Estabrook, Sidney Gottlieb, Dr. Michael Oren, Dr. Louis Jolyon West, Dr. Ewan Cameron, George Estabrook. This is the man that once bragged to a Senate committee that he could hypnotize anyone in that room to not only go home and kill their parents, but to eat them in a soup. Does this sound like American values to you? And you know how he learned to make that boast? They experimented on unwilling, unknowing American citizens, children, in fact. This is the dark side of our... These people deserve the death sentence. The evidence has been out there. People like me do exist. We're not easy to kill. If you don't shoot me just right, that bullet's going to ricochet off these super hardened bones. I've been shot 6 times, if you want to count the rock salt, in my life. And it never stopped me or slowed me down. In fact, most of the people that actually shot me didn't make it, whether I was armed with a gun or not. I'm the kind of guy that has taken a knife to a gunfight and been the one to walk away. If you took now Doesn't mean we kind of stand still and let people shoot us either, like bullets are going to bounce off me. If you took all the bullets that were ever shot at me and put them all in a bag, most of you would hurt yourself trying to lift it. Most of them don't ever make contact. We're fast, we're strong, we're smart, we're able to think on our feet, we're able to strategize. Some of us are into remote viewing, so we know where you're going, where you're at, what you're thinking while you're there. Whether you're hiding behind a door, we can feel you. We are assassins with a 100% success rate. I'd say close to 100%. My last couple of missions didn't get completed. But the reason they didn't get completed was George H.W. Bush was the head of the CIA, the director at the time, and he was selling assets. And for some strange reason, the people we were going to hit, and I don't believe there were assassinations on those particular missions, but the people we were going to see knew we were coming and what direction we were coming from. And the only people that knew that were the people that sent us. So my last couple of missions didn't complete. Otherwise, it would have been 100%. Duncan, if you're out there, feel free to take this, make copies of it, move it around anywhere you like, buddy. You were a hell of a student. You were a hell of an ultra. You still are. You wouldn't be alive if you weren't. Miranda, hang on to that guy. It's nice to have somebody that's got your back, buddy. Believe me, the marriage thing doesn't work out. The spooks like to always go for the weakest link you got. Had a girlfriend a few years ago in Wales, and I was thinking of taking off of the United States and just leaving this country because it doesn't doing so much that I so disagree with, the dronings and all that, and the crap with 9/11, and nobody's getting it. And I don't want anything to do with this country anymore. Well, they flagged my passport, and they pick on my girlfriend. And they scare her, tell her all kinds of awful things about some of the things we did, and try to make her believe we're going to do them to her too. They got between me and my family, my last wife. So marriages don't last very long. Well, that lasted 20 years. I gave everything my best shot, but they work over my kids, and I just can't relate to them anymore. And I don't want to take that crap where they just start, well, you know, it's Dad, and he's a bit eccentric. It's like, no. After the way I've lived and the things that I've done, I'm not taking that. I'm not settling for that. So the fact that you got a good woman, and like, probably just going to take another ultra to do that, to be able to handle that kind of pressure. This isn't no easy life here. Not that I'm going through now. The last year, about a year ago, I was in an intensive care unit, and quite honestly, I wish I didn't survive it. It's been too hard and not much good to see for it. But I'm still in there hitting. Still striking back at the enemy. Information counts. I'm telling the truth. I'm putting the information out there. I'm not making a dime on any of this. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to tell the truth for the truth's sake. Sooner or later, I'm not going to wake up. And people get this out and understand what's been going on, and they wake up and start acting like they're awake, and start making decisions instead of just letting the government make them for them. And I will have done my part. This is the biggest part, I guess, about super soldiering, is being able to stand for a truth in a country that is run completely by lies. And they are some murdering, thieving, stealing bastards. And it takes a super soldier to stand up to them. And even if you're not an MK Ultra and you know what the truth is, stand for it. You be the super soldier. You be the one standing for this country. I've done everything I could. I'm not dead yet. Yeah. Duncan gets a lot of threats. I get them too from time to time. I don't care. Anybody stupid enough to come up to me and threaten me is... There used to be a man standing there, but there isn't no more. There's a little tune, Duncan, to just kind of remember. Have a good one, buddy. Miss you. Love you.
Well, there's a mother in the alley, there's a sniper in the hall, there's a